live stream here on a Wednesday evening. For those of you coming in and joining us here live, so happy to have you. Wonderful to see you. Look forward to seeing your chats and answering your questions and talking football with you for a little bit. And so excited to see Jim McCormick. Is that a Chicago Vice t-shirt you're wearing?
Yeah, it's a little aggressive. Back in the 80s, this was a real poster. They had Walter Payton and him have fake Uzis. A little much. It's a series of posters. It's a little much. A series of posters. My friend had a t-shirt company. This was one of them. I don't endorse that, but this was what the kids were into in 1987. So yeah, 86. I think.
Fake Uzis. You don't know that for sure.
No, I mean, it's, well, I can believe McMahon. I can believe Jim brought them. Not sweetness.
So we're here to preview Week 8 in the NFL. We're going to talk through the slate of games. We're going to talk a little fantasy with you as we go along. We're going to do partway through. We're going to do like a Fantasy 5. We're going to just break it down and just start answering questions in the chat. So get ready for that. We're sponsored by DraftKings, and I'm so happy that we are, because we wouldn't get to do this fun show and talk with all of you if we weren't. And I think that's about it. We are going to try to go fast on a few games because we have a full slate, no bye weeks this week. I want to say that I'll say up top, congratulate our viewer/listener who last week picked correctly, a good pick, their best bet. It was J.S. Rodriguez, and they had the Steelers, which I personally did not. In fact, felt pretty strongly that it would be the Jets, and I was incorrect. First half, I looked brilliant, but J.S. knew what they were talking about, so congratulations to you. I'll tell you about DraftKings a little bit more as we get going. But, Jim, we can start talking about the Thursday night game, Rams-Vikings. I guess Vikings at Rams here in Los Angeles, but let's face it, we know there's going to be more Viking fans than Ram fans. Did you hear the rumor that Twitter was taking very seriously about 24 hours ago that Matt Stafford was getting traded to the Vikings?
No, I didn't know, but I'm excited to hear it.
It was so dumb. It was so dumb.
I love it because why? And why? Why would you do it? Why?
Why would you do it?
Why?
It's a one-loss team, and Darnold was not the reason for the loss. Like, I think you probably
just like NBA territory. That's sort of like silly fantasy, like Lakers photoshopping everybody. Like, it's just it's just too much.
It's absolutely true. So, apparently Matt Stafford's going to stay with the Rams. They shut that down pretty quickly. So in defeat at home, I probably think of the Vikings. I think more of the Vikings than I did. Like, they just have proven they belong in that weight class. Maybe not like the super elite, but are there even super elites? Are the Chiefs super elite, or are they just like continually lucky? They're either in the top. I think the Vikings have proven that they're either in the top or they're like in the 1.5 top. And it feels like the close loss to the Lions, for me, kind of just confirmed that.
I think so too. I could take a moral victory from it. I thought that I picked the Vikings in that game, but it was on one of my main screens. It was a great game. What felt great about it, not great because I'm not a great Vikings, but what felt encouraging about it was that this long into the sample size, that like it kind of vets the team out, right? And this wasn't just like a luck-driven or huge play-driven outcome where it's like 80-yard bombs to Addison or something like that, or Nailers beating everybody. It wasn't some outlier game. It looked like they could repeatable. It looked repeatable and sustainable, the things they were doing. And like you said, that would have playoff feel to it, but it was a knockdown atmosphere against a team that they're going to have to go through again. So it was interesting.
Yeah, good game. The Rams beat the Raiders last week, and that wasn't a good game at all. And I really find that the Rams have real problems in the interior of the offensive line. I'm not sitting there breaking down every snap and looking at every guard, but like generally speaking, I'm seeing a ton of pressure in Stafford's face right away, and it's the Raiders doing that. And then also just that power stuff, that duo stuff that we talked about so much last year with the Rams having lost, I think, the starting center and one of the guards, and
Steve Avila and Jonah Jackson are huge losses. Yeah.
Right, and Noteboom, the swing tackle, also being gone. So I don't know. Bottom line here is I don't like the Rams' chances too much in this game, despite the return of Cooper Kupp. This line, I'm forecasting myself, is Vikings on the road -2.5. What do you think?
Yeah, and just meanwhile, like the Stafford thing's ridiculous, but there is some feeling like with the discussion, like really vetted reporters, like we're talking about the Kupp thing. So there is something funky with the Rams in terms of just there might be a pivot point, but not Stafford. the Vikings are real and the Rams aren't. Is that kind of the answer to the thing?
That's my answer. I'm minus 2.5. I'm giving them.
There's one quick one because I know we're moving on. Is road favorites are 16-2 since the start of Week 5, which is just kind of wild. And I know that's ridiculous. I don't know what to do with that, but they're 61% of the season, and I thought this line would be bigger, so I had it at 4 of Vikings.
Kevin in the chat is saying it's a road team short week. That is conventional wisdom. Road favorite, short week. Do you really want to go there? But we are both going there. Bottom line.
Sam Darnold has a live-in barber. He can fit it in.
He does have a live-in barber. That's actually a little-known fact about Sam Darnold. We're going to move on to Sunday's actions. It's the return of Tua Tagovailoa. Here's my question, and it's not answerable. And I've talked about it like 2 straight days on the podcast, but here we go. I'm going to do it again. How does one? Because you don't have an answer. Nobody has an answer about what the Dolphins' approach is going to be. We're going to know when we know. Are they immediately the greatest show on turf again? Do they try to work back in slowly? Given that there's uncertainty there, how do you filter those possibilities that it's not, after a month off, that it's not immediately back to exactly the way we expected it to be to start the season? How does that factor into your way that you look at this game against the Cardinals?
I mean, they always have been volatile, even when healthy, but now with the absence, meaning they've always had that element to me where any team can show up, and the second they have that fantasy type player feeling where the second I want to believe them, they're just going to completely leave. I'm going to stand on this show and be like, they're my favorites. I've just teal aquatics everywhere, and they let you down, and that's what they do. But there's something about this game that. There's something different about this comeback, I suppose, that feels like maybe an approach will be different. Maybe it'll be
in other words, if you're making a prediction, you're saying that this is the time, 3 concussions in, that they just go, you know what, let's pretend it's Tyler Huntley back there and run that game plan for a while and just get to work Tua back in slowly is what you're saying.
Sure, I think could be. I think it's gonna be more guarded, but I also don't think that removes the ability for him to still be so much better than what they'd had, that they still go off because they have so many creators. But it would be much more creators in the hands of the create. That sounds so religious, but it would be much more in the hands of the creators than thy quarterback. Okay. It just feels like Tua wouldn't have to work some of his deep field and timing magic. It would just be here. So I just think you want to get the ball out of his hands would be the goal. So that would be my prediction, is that it's a lower attempt game than normal. I would be interested to see, I haven't checked, but what his attempt over-under is and compare that maybe.
In the chat, I've got JD telling me that he's legit worried Tua doesn't make it out of the game, which I understand that. He should wear the Guardian cap. It seems crazy that he won't, but
right.
He's not gonna. And Nathan says, hey, are the Dolphins with Tua even a good team in 2024? I mean, week 1, they needed a miracle touchdown from Tyreek Hill at the very end of the game to get to overtime to win that game. Are they even good? I guess my answer is we don't know yet. My suspicion is yes. It's one game, but my suspicion is yes, that they're good. We're going to get back to the rest of the week 8 action in just a moment, but I want to thank DraftKings for continuing to sponsor. And if you're looking for a place where you can play the games, maybe pick a favorite or two or an underdog or two that we talk about today, and you've never downloaded the DraftKings app, if you get that sportsbook app and you're allowed to in your state, not that I'm bitter about California, but if you're allowed to in your state, then if you sign up using the code HarrisTube, all one word, that really actually does us a huge favor. If you like this show, it just lets DraftKings know that people are watching and paying attention. You can imagine what the equation is like. They go to their internet sources and they look up how many people are using HarrisTube. And if not that many people are using it, they go, is it worth sponsoring this show? So if you've never downloaded the app before, it really would help us out if you download it. You sign up using the code HarrisTube, all one word. If you do that, make one $5 bet, they'll instantly put $200 in bonus bets into your account that you can spread around over the course of the weekend and have a little fun. Don't bet a lot. We really want you to not. I mean, we were talking before we started. Our ranges on this show of how much we bet per game is from $1 to very rarely $10. Please don't bet a lot, but it's fun. It gets you motivated. It gets you you watch a game you wouldn't care about normally and you go, I really care about the result. So use that code HarrisTube. Thank you, DraftKings, for sponsoring. I'm going to fast forward us through Packers Jags, Jim, and just talk about the line. except to say it's rare when you check where the money is on a game and the money is 97% on one team, which apparently, as of our recording this, it is for Green Bay. That's something else.
And 3% from Bristol, England, because that's where the Jags fans are. They're just a bunch of guys drinking tea. It's cool. This is a strange game. It's the Shades of Green would be the graphic novel. And Jordan Love hasn't been good as a favorite, but he hasn't been a favorite very often either. And also Trevor Lawrence and these guys are bad. So I like the Packers. It's a big number. I don't like this number, but I'll do it.
It's 4 though, right?
4, just meaning it's just big in the sense that like road weirdness, but I just think there's just such a better team. And I know last week was close, but that was such a heavyweight battle. We talked about the Vikings Lions game last week, also included that Texans Packers game, and it just felt that was a medal game, meaning proving that they'd prove their medal. And this, I think, is such an inferior opponent that regardless of the calm down crash factor, I think it's them.
I hear you, and I'm going to be on the Jags +4. I don't feel super strongly about it, but I think the fact that the line doesn't move when there's this much money on one side makes me think that maybe the people making
tickets versus weight, right,
bets for a living, maybe, maybe. So I'm on Jags +4. But let's talk about this next game. It's the one that's in our graphic. It's the headline graphic of the show today. It is the Eagles against the Bengals. And what do you got there? Yeah.
This is Bobby the Bear. You know what I mean? His name Bobby Murray. Murr, they call him sometimes. Murr. He's got a ladder on his truck. He doesn't even have a job that associates with the ladder. He's an accountant, but otherwise he wouldn't be able to go to the bar that we go to, even though we both aren't allowed to drink there. This is Bobby. Go Birds.
So go Birds. So I'm looking at the chat at the reaction to the Bear appearance because it was a request from the listeners last week that
wait.
Our wonderful producer Dave Piper told us about.
There we go. Wow.
we got Max is saying yes, and Viola is saying yes, and so we're very excited. We got Guillaume is giving a cry laughing emoji. So I guess this is the new tradition when an Eagles game comes along. Good game. We both had the Eagles as one of our best bets to cover on the road against the Giants. That was really never in question. Did that make you feel better about the Eagles, that game?
I mean, we talked about DraftKings. It made me feel better about just really believing in revenge or whatever you want to call the Hard Knocks thing that happened with regards to Saquon and just the
slander.
Yes. So it was great. That was fun. So that was really enjoyable. But it did show me something in terms of maybe like that the defense, the pass rush looked good. But it's the sample's tough to tell because that Giants team is stinky. So it was fun because it wasn't the Browns game from the week before.
I still find myself not being a believer in the Eagles. I'm surprised you're even wavering because you even said on the show last week, no, Andrew Thomas means the pass rush is going to get home. Like you knew what was coming.
It was over. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Cincinnati is back to kind of being Cincinnati again. I mean, they were bad in the first half offensively, but Cleveland was very good defensively in the first half. So like when the rubber met the road, I mean, Cincinnati was riding the crest of an opening kickoff return for a touchdown. That's how they had a lead in the first half of last week. Right. And we were both on the right side. We were both on the Browns, and all game that was the right side until the end. And yet I think Cincinnati will be able to move the ball through Philly like a knife through butter. I don't think your pass rush will get anywhere as close to Burrow. I think he'll have all day. I think there are holes all over that Eagle defense still. I think Cincinnati puts up a big number here.
Yeah, it's kind of like throwing a dart through some cheese whiz. You know what I mean? That defense is not good. It's not. There's a lot of yards left in the field. If Malik Neighbors was healthy last week, you know what I mean? It could have been a game, honestly. But seriously, Jalen Hurts wasn't that good last week. He hit that one again, the 4th and 3 pass. Like, what is going on here?
And it was a great pass. It was
a beautiful pass, and AJ is just ridiculous. And so they do have these superlative players, which obviously helps window dress, like for example, for Jalen really still not being that great. But I did appreciate the running. But I will say this: the stat's impossible. But we all know the stat that they haven't scored in the first quarter yet, right?
It's crazy. Yeah,
okay,
it's
so
crazy.
The only thing I have to say is that in the last 20 years, here are the other three teams who've done that. The 2005 Cardinals, who a 5-win Cardinals team, who I don't know, Jake Plummer sold mushrooms in that team. 2008 Lions, I think we know what that team did. They did win a game. And the 4-win 21 Jets. So it's like an outlier for a team to be this bad of an engine starter and still be somehow relevant. With that said, wow. I also had a note that really that there's no way that the Bengals have so many paths to beating this defense. It's not a very good defense if they don't get home. And they don't have an edge rush. It has to be up the middle. Boo. I'm unhappy, but I picked the Bengals.
I picked the Bengals too, -2.5. We're going to do this a couple times, but let's do it once for we got some people in here. We got a good number of people in here. We appreciate you being here. Can we do a like spike? Can we all like the video at the same time? When I say 3, 2, 1, let's all hit it at the same time, because it makes the live stream a little more findable by other folks. And then eventually, hopefully, the canned video also will be more findable. So here we go. Like spike. Find that like button in 3, 2, 1, like. And here they come. Thank you so much for the likes. That's a lot of hearts. It's very
King
lovely.
YouTube's gonna get an email. Come on.
That's a lot of likes. I really appreciate that. That's lovely. Thank you. Let's continue on. Let's do Colts Texans. And you mentioned the Texans Packers game and that being a war. And obviously those are two good teams, and they battled down to the end, and one team took the lead. The other team drove and stole it away from them. Jim, were you as alarmed as I was at the capitulation of the Houston pass offense? They kind of gave up, they couldn't block Green Bay up front. And Quay Walker got hurt, and maybe that's part of why they decided they could run, and they definitely ran well. But I didn't really see a scenario where the Texans would ever flip the script on their offensive game plan to that extent, to the point where C.J. Stroud is completing 10 passes in an entire game.
Right, for the advanced nerds or whatever, the pass rate below expectation, it's just that's not their motive. That's not how they get around. And I understand that you're missing this very dynamic piece. The Eagles' offense, for example, looked very different when A.J. Brown was gone. Now, C.J. Stroud's a better quarterback, but my point is just you're going to see Nico Collins' absence, but this is an extreme that I just wasn't expecting. Maybe it speaks to this Packers secondary, which I've talked about for 10 years, which might finally be good. Meaning they might have actually hit on their 14 first-round picks. They all just, Voltron, formed into one player. But the point being... Yeah. Houston also, though, at least they have multiple paths is something to say. Whereas I don't know what the path to Anthony Richardson. I don't know. Does he take on this? Because here's the thing that's really alarming. I've said this before, but Minshew and a bag of chips last year was the number 10 scoring offense. And Jalen Hurts was an actual, even regardless, we both did not really ever think Jalen Hurts was that great. I still don't. But that MVP year happened, or at least not the MVP year, the Super Bowl year, but he was an MVP candidate. Steichen has done this thing. Herbert's best year. There's a pattern. He made Phillip Rivers good when Phillip Rivers was on paternity leave. And so rather, this is alarming how bad Richardson is, because it's
really alarming.
With a guy I really do believe in. So I don't really think this is a pock on Steichen, even though I'm a Steichen, I don't know what the word would be, but a Steichen guy, a groupie.
Right. I mean, we understand that that's why the Texans are favored by 5, and that's, so they are a better team. They are expected to win, and they didn't, week 1, they needed a last-second play to win that game. So I can't tell you I'm positive, and that was with Nico Collins. I can't tell you I'm positive that this is the gap, but I am positive there's a gap. And I set that line at -6 for Houston. The fact that it's -5, and I just think, okay, you said it. They showed they have multiple paths, and one of those paths is Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon can wreck the Colts if he needs to here.
Well, absolutely, and that's been an issue for the Colts for a while. You can just lean on them. They've done, and it's almost like a profile that they've gone for with the draft. They go for these super crazy mock draftable spider chart, like 99th percentile, everything. But it's he weighs 40 pounds, and that's kind of their thing. They have these extreme spider charts. I'll finish this game, but there's an extreme part of Anthony Richardson. He's just this giant. But his pass success rate is 35.2%. The only other guys that have been worse in the last 20 years are Josh Freeman and Jamarcus Russell. So it's like, this isn't great. This is you get to a point where you can't come back from sometimes, where I'm starting to worry about this dude.
That is scary. I'm checking in on the chat here. Eric says, serious question. Chris, do you ever go on pods for places you used to work for that could be considered revenge pods? No. And Joel says, reminds me when Carabao made his one guest appearance. That was nice of him. Listen, if Eric was allowed to come back on, he definitely would. Jim, you're here though. You're the ESPN boy. Just give me a pick, because we both were wrong on Patriots Jets in New York. We both thought the Patriots would easily cover. We were crazily wrong. And now this line, I don't need analysis. Just give me a pick. It's Jets -7 at New England.
I just can't quit the footy pajamas. I'm taking them. I know you said only say one thing, but they haven't been 7 points or higher favorites against the Patriots since September 1999. Just wanted to say that. So
all right, I nailed the line. It's a push for me. I nailed it at -7, so I'm not betting it. The Ravens coming off one of the most impressive games of the year on Monday night that a lot of people saw, which definitely influences betting. They're going to Cleveland, and you better believe I'm not asking about the Ravens in this game. Dave Piper, I can hear him. He's throwing a party in my ears because Deshaun Watson is no longer his quarterback for the rest of the season. It's going to be Jameis Winston. He's very, very happy man. So does this make the Browns? I mean, I'm asking the most leading question. I would get thrown out of court with this, but Jim, yeah. Does this change to a backup quarterback make the Browns worse?
What? This is intense. This is really intense. I mean, if any team's qualified, it's the Browns. This is the 64th backup quarterback to start since 2012. This is just incredible. The 54th back, like not the 64th, but it's the 64th backup start they have to field. But Watson is really bad. I talked about how bad Richardson was. This guy's even worse. It's the 16th worst success rate in the last 30 years. He's bad. And I think they're just better with this. I think they're gonna it's the interim coach firing without having to fire the coach, meaning.
Well, except for the coach did take away the play calling from himself. He handed it over.
So this could be good. Though. I'll take the dogs in the dog pound. I mean, I just think it's too big.
Yeah. How many times we get to keep doing this and be wrong? But we keep taking the Browns as favorites. I mean, it's big dogs, and
at least I'm not just expecting the Judge Deshaun Watson to disappear. Meaning at least there's something that can happen here.
That's a great point. It happened. I mean, the answer to the leading question, which you answered, but I'll just make it more explicit, is no, they're better.
Yeah,
the backup quarterback makes them better, and it's not close. Yeah. And this line should have moved more, probably. And there is that whole thing about the Ravens are one of the best teams in the league, and they're going to win this game. But
yes,
coming off the national spectacle of them destroying a better team,
there's a lot of middle here. Yeah,
that's right. And plus, the Browns' offensive line is getting healthier. They've got almost everybody back, and maybe Nick Chubb is back, he didn't even play in the second half against the Bengals. Anyway,
they've also had they've had this identity before with Brissett and Flacco. They've had this ulterior gear that's worked. So
right. So it's this funny. I got this line at +9.5. So I bet this one at yesterday at 9.5. It's already down to 8.5, but I'll still take it at 8.5. You?
I'm taking the points. I didn't know that it would open that big. That's interesting. Jameis Winston press conferences. It's a 1 point.
He ate the W. That's all I can tell you. The aforementioned Buccaneers. That's who I want to talk about in this matchup against the Falcons. I feel like it's the same conversation as the Dolphins in a way, but in reverse, because you're now, instead of adding in someone who's been gone for a long time and having to kind of metastasize how that affects the way you look at the game, you suddenly, and again, talked about this like crazy on the podcast, going to talk about it again like crazy on Thursday's podcast. We're having to make guesses about what Tampa's approach will be without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and no one likes to make guesses. And that does kind of tends to send you away from the team that you have to make guesses about. Like, wow, are they going to have answers to the test? I kind of tend to think that they'll maybe have some answers, at least when they're not playing the Ravens.
Right. That was a terrible situation. I mean, that would be terrible against any opponent, particularly one who really knows how to submit an opponent, right? Like they really closed that game, and like just as my one friend texted, like Tampa's real. He was like, 20 minutes later, he was like delete, retract. Now Tampa looked good early in that game, but the point is, I think Baltimore would have run off with that game regardless. But the Tampa is better. I think Tampa's not just a function of those receivers. I think there's other ways they're going to be able. That's
kind of what I was saying. Like, there's definitely two ways this can go. I mean, they could decide, okay, we're all about these three running backs. We're all about the screen game. We're gonna bring it, rein it way in. I kind of don't think that's what they're gonna do at first. I think they're gonna try to just see if they can still be wild people and crazy and let Baker run around. That's kind of been their identity. It's fun and it leads to a lot of stats, and they've been winning that way. I think they're going to try to do that in this game against Atlanta and see if these unknown receivers suddenly turn into something.
Yeah, and they've had injuries even with their depth, but like they have tried to layer some insurance policies because they are older vets. So like we'll see. It's not like they have nothing or no kind of like plan. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know how many DraftKings lineups I'm going to build with the Bucs, but watch that. Wait, Dave, record that because that's going to be the Millionaire Maker. So it's going to be Baker Mayfield with like 3 touchdowns to like I don't know, Antonio Freeman III. Is he here? I don't know.
YouTube Shorts. It's just that moment of Jim messing that up. So this line is Falcons on the road. They're favored by 2.5. I'll just say I think it feels like an overreact. I mean, the Falcons won on a last-second kick against Tampa 3 weeks ago. These teams are close regardless. Feels like a little bit of an overreaction to Godwin and Evans being out. I don't love it. I'm not trying to tell you I think it's like amazing value, but I would probably be on the Buccaneers here.
I'm on the Bucs. I had this close to a pick. It's not like it's not like this isn't a game of the week or anything. I don't know. There's too much mystery, but I'm going to take the points at home in a weird division.
Your pick, if I'm telling you it's Lions -11 at home against Tennessee, do you have a strong feeling there?
I mean, just like, wow, that's a big number for Detroit next to it. It's the biggest line Detroit's had since 1996. That's a long time ago. So, but this is, again, we've talked about this. They're a public team. We talked about the public nature of like the Packers now after that big win. This Tennessee team is really bad. Still think this just feels too big to me.
Too many points.
But maybe I have to get used to this because there is a gap growing in terms of some of these like really bereft bad teams. Maybe we talked about the Rams, like the Titans are already on the path to like deep like selling parts.
So you're Tennessee +11 here. I set it at 12, not knowing what the line was going to be. So I'm going to Detroit -11.
Interesting.
I don't find there to be much value. You know what? Let's take a little break. Let's go over to the chat. And let's do 5 minutes of fun. Let's do 5 minutes of fantasy. It's not like entirely a fantasy show, It's a lot of the rest of what we do is fantasy. This is much more meant to be kind of an NFL preview show. But let's do 5 minutes of fantasy, and that means people in the chat right now hit us up. What do you got?
Before we answer a question, I have one thing. I have Dome data report. Robot voice. Jared Goff is 40-8 against the spread indoors. I'm taking the points with the Titans, so that doesn't matter.
It's a Jimmy reverse. Jimmy reverse.
That means nothing. Okay.
Let's see. We've got Ryan says, rest of the season, do you prefer Tua or Geno?
Tua, just because I think the ways that there's just more weirdness. We talked about volatility. I think you win weeks with the weirdness, and I want to sign up with Tyreek Hill and those track stars. And I just think it's a more fun offensive coach. Yeah,
I may have even ranked those guys in the rest of the season ranks.
They're very close.
I think I probably would also say Tua, but I might change my mind in about 4 days.
Seattle had its bye already too, so it doesn't. Both okay,
right?
It doesn't matter.
So did Miami. Max says for this week, Javonte, Aaron Jones, Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin need 2.
That's a lot of words.
Javonte, Aaron Jones, Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin.
I say Jones and Diggs. I know we talked about the idea of pivoting away, but I just still think the bandwidth is going to that guy.
Jones and Diggs. That's what I would play too. Michael says, does Geno drop in your ranks if DK Metcalf sits?
Yeah.
I don't think you have ranks. I'll answer because I have ranks. Maybe. Some.
Much, right?
The thing is, I don't really think that Geno's excellence is so much based on DK Metcalf as it is Geno's kind of clinically insane. And I say this all the time, but like he's got 120 yards in the third quarter and you're losing your mind. And then I sit back and I text Josh and I go, don't you worry, man. He's going to have 330 by the time it's done. And boom, he does. And, they're just to crazy random. It's to, Jake Bobo.
Right. It's always a made up tight end. It's always a made up tight end.
or a made up tight end. Yeah.
And they have weird names like Tanner Whitebreast or something. It's like that's Seattle. There should be a contest for naming Seattle tight ends. You know what I mean? Like Winslow Craftmellow. I don't know. You can just make them up. That's what their names are. They're always like that. Like Foster Moreau. His name
Tanner Whitebreast.
That's he's had 310 yards for 6 years in a row, and Seattle signed him to a 3-year, $20 million deal.
Viola, you're in here. Could you please make a note of Tanner Whitebreast? Can we figure out how to work that into a song?
Sure.
I'm pink now. I turned pink with laughter. Tanner Whitebreast. JD says, Jameis Winston Superflex rank crossover. I'm not looking at the ranks, JD, and I'm not, so you're not. But like, I think the general feeling would be use JD. Almost in any case, I'd be using the quarterback. And Jameis is crazy. Like Jameis is fun. You could get 300-yard game out of him, throwing him to anybody. So yeah, I think you just use him for sure.
And there's a lot of soft. I think there's soft points there. The weird Jameis, like you just talked about, Geno, 200-yard fourth quarter.
100%, absolutely. Slippery Action says, who would you trade away, Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams?
Wilson, just because the only two guys in the team with Android phones are Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. So
fair. Joel says, should I trade Chase Brown for Zay Flowers straight up? I
mean, his ankle injury, right? But I would still do it because he's just I just would rather have him on my fantasy team. If you can handle some risk there, yeah, go for it.
I mean, they're real close already in my rest of the season ranks. I have Flowers 51 and Chase Brown 57, but that rank was with me considering Zay Flower potentially having, being limited for a game or 2 games or 3 games. I lowered him, in other words, for this past week. So it's close. I don't hate it. I don't hate it for sure. Kevin says Winslow McCraft Mellow, also very good. Mm-hmm. Talk Birdie to me says, who am I more scared of playing in a flex? Brian Thomas or Devontae Adams? That's not a flex. That's a wide receiver question. Talk Birdie.
Yeah, but I'm guessing those are the 2 best options. So I'm going to say Brian Thomas has been better. But I feel like a Tay game is coming, so I'll do Tay.
Yeah, but I mean, you can look at my receiver ranks. I have both. I'm both top 13. I have Thomas higher.
They're really good players. Yeah.
Epri says, Worthy is Xavier Worthy a good buy low?
I don't know how much to buy into it because it's not a lot of stuff. But I know he's at 1 yard on like 40 press routes. That's not his thing. But it's just weird they're not getting the ball creatively even when everything was decimated and eroded, and they're going out and getting my grandfather. So it's just strange. I think they're telling you that's the tell
that they don't think that he's ready.
Right.
By making the trade for DeAndre Hopkins. I think they're telling you that he's not ready. So probably the answer is no. That was a fun fantasy 5. And remind me, what was it? Tyler Whitebreast? Was that who it was?
Tanner.
Tanner Whitebreast.
Yeah.
Guys, Tyler, this stuff goes in and out of my head, but somebody please remember Tanner Whitebreast. That would be lovely. All right, let's move on to some more games. We've got 6 or 7 more to get to. The Saints are going to once again apparently not use Derek Carr. Instead, they're going to use Spencer. Rattler is almost too cool a name for him.
It's a great name. It's a made up Patrick Swayze name. It's a villain. It's a villain. Spencer Rattler owns the rival bar.
Yeah, he stinks. They're coming here to Los Angeles, and of course, I've seen what the Saints defense looks like this beaten up. The offense is decimated. Maybe Taysom Hill comes back, the smiling goon. Okay, all that is true. But we all know it's a very shorthanded Saints team. And I should feel wonderful just pushing my chips in and saying, I trust the Chargers. But Jim, I don't trust the Chargers because, they just don't feel like they want to push the envelope. Like, I don't think that the TV broadcast was very good in that Cardinal game, but I will say one good point they made, which was Arizona just decided, we're going to put 11 guys at the line of scrimmage. If you decide you want to throw over the top, you just let us know and you'll have a touchdown, and they just won't do it. And it's funny, like, I think people freaked out over Greg Roman for the wrong reason. It's not that Greg Roman is going to run constantly. They threw like 39 times and ran 22 times against Arizona. It's that he wants to throw 11 passes to Will Dissly. He wants to just throw little outs, and they never want to beat anybody by a big number again, I guess.
The Seahawks tight ends, they bring everything together. They really do. I mean, Dennis Allen has no idea what he's doing, and that's not going to change anything in this game, because what you said, like, it's incredible. They continue to ply the same trade. It's really kind of fascinating, actually. Like, meaning the
Chargers.
The Chargers. You talked about all these volatile teams that we can't read, and this truly is like their coach. If they take on their coach, this is the khaki polo team, and it's just strange that, like, you know, this
and
guy
they have the big armed. They have the maniac. They have the big armed crazy guy as their quarterback, and they're gelding him.
There's flashes once in a while where, like, you can tell he wants to get out, but then you can tell like the robots just like get back in there.
Do you remember last Monday when everybody told me I was stupid for taking Arizona against the Chargers? Remember that?
Yeah, and they won.
Take that, chat.
This is too many points. This isn't close to the line, the big stat we've had before, but 7 is still just a lot. You don't see many 7s like among the, like, I don't think the non-contender crowd. I wouldn't call the Chargers a real contender. So you just don't see many touchdown spreads among non-contenders. I'm going to take points.
I'm going to do the Jimmy half reverse, which is to say, I nailed this line, Chargers minus 7. So this is my other push of the week. I'm out on this game, and I'm with you. I think the right side, given how the Chargers play, is probably the Saints, but I don't want to play it. It's myself. All right, we're going to do it one more time. If you're watching after the fact, and most people watching this video didn't live stream it, most people watching after the fact, if you could also participate in this like spike at the exact moment when I say it, trust me, you'll be helping, even though you won't really, but just a like helps. But live, it really does help. So we're going to do one more like spike for anybody who's joining us late. Here we go. Hit the like button in 3, 2, 1. Like. Oh, look at those hearts. Hearts of fire, hearts ablaze. We appreciate you doing that. That's very lovely of you. Okay. Keeping it going with the late games on Sunday, the Bills. I don't think people realized they were losing at halftime. I don't think people realized they went 3 and out 3 straight times against Tennessee. I don't think people realized they didn't look so good. They're going to Seattle, who absolutely boat raced Atlanta. I didn't know it when I watched the film. Like, I already knew the score on Monday. When I watched the film, I was like, wait, when does the blowout happen? And I guess the reason you tend to feel good about Buffalo is that usually the blowout happens. Like, they aren't the most organized. Josh Allen is kind of like a little bit of a jazz musician, kind of. Mm-hmm. But like, it does, like, we got to admit it kind of works for him. Like, at some point they just go, okay, cool, we're going to score on 4 straight possessions.
He really does have a Marvel character kind of thing where 80% of the movie sucks, and then 7% is actually really cool. You're like, okay, this is why I just gave you $18. And then, like, there's a weird ending, which he usually does, you know what I mean, where they try to make you care about some character you don't care about, like Dawson Knox, yeah. So yeah. And it's just like, oh, he's best friends. No one cares. Like, you drafted Dalton Kincaid. Stop ruining us. But the real point is what you said is true. Like, 52 of his 73 wins have come from by 7 points or more. So, like, when they do win, I don't know, I have no context what that means around the league. I just know that's a lot. And meaning when he wins, he wins, and he puts his foot in the gas, and they do it in these big bursts. It's hard to read the Seattle team. We've talked about the volatility around the league. They're one of those teams that I don't know who's going to show up type style. I have more faith in, like, that the Buffalo version can show up more often is my kind of feel.
I sort of theoretically agree with you, but I guess the lines as you do beforehand, and I guess this would be Bills -2. And the fact that it's Bills -3 means I'm on Seattle. I don't have an awesome case for why, except to say Seattle tends to be a little undervalued in general. We were wrong on them in Atlanta last week. They're okay. They're pretty good. And Gino's crazy. Like, whatever you want to say about Josh Allen, Gino's pretty crazy too.
Yeah, no, he's crazy. Yeah, I don't know what to say. He's nuts. And Seattle's not getting respected. And I'm not going to give them the respect because Josh Allen's a Marvel character. I said it before. He's going to win.
You did it. We got the Bears going to the Commanders. This is very clearly a point spread reflecting that Jaden Daniels will not be playing because I'll ask you the question, if Jaden Daniels were playing, and the Bears are good and hot, and Caleb Williams played a lot better last couple games before their bye. But if Jaden Daniels were playing in this game, what do you think the line would be?
At least 3, probably 3.5.
Commanders 3, Commanders 3.5.
3.5, yeah.
In fact, it's Bears by 2, which that's everybody telling you that everything everybody knows who isn't us is telling them that Jaden Daniels is not playing. And so I guess I'll just ask you, do you think Jaden Daniels is worth those 5 or 5.5 points?
Yeah, I would think so. Just because the unknown, well, also no, the known. I mean, I don't know Marcus Mariota, but
but you know him.
He's a Polynesian prince, but I just wouldn't want him as my quarterback. So he's really bad. It's a big drop off. It's huge. Obviously, every backup's a big drop off, but like, we mentioned before, and we'll talk about it. But like, there are some backups around the league, such as Dalton, who's bad, but like or Jameis Winston. The floor doesn't fall out. This could be a floor fallout kind of setup. So. Yeah,
and I took the Bears -2. I set it at -3. It's another one. I wouldn't play it. I don't think there's any value in it. Who knows? The Commanders might be pretty good, and maybe it isn't entirely Jaden Daniels. Like, if they show well in this game, it probably means something really good for them, potentially making like a legit a run to the playoffs, But like, let's face it, you're right. There's also the possibility that it just he gets slaughtered and can't play, and they lose by 100.
He just does so much stuff, and like, I know it gets everybody's like riding the thing, but it's real. He's running for 46 yards in the first play. That's hard to do. Yeah. So yeah.
So I'm giving the points on the road by 2.
I too, yeah, and I had it at a kick as well. I just think that's a big difference.
Not a lot of value. Yeah, not a lot of value.
No, I don't play that.
Another terrible line, and you mentioned Andy Dalton being out. Bryce Young is going to play against, surprisingly, maybe one of the best defenses in the league against the Broncos. Bo Nix. I hope everybody who saw it on Thursday night realizes that he's not very good, but Sean Payton's managing him, and it kind of doesn't matter. The Broncos, that line, when it went from Dalton to Bryce Young, the line immediately moved from -9 Denver to -10 Denver. Does that move you at all? Do you have a bet here?
Yeah, I'm just taking the points. It's too many. We've done the dogs of 8 points or more. Right. I haven't updated that in a while, but it feels too many points, even with Bryce Young's craziness and the defense, all those things. Too many points.
I set it at 11, so I'm on Denver. But these last few games, I haven't felt
the Broncos defense is. Maybe I'm disrespecting.
Good.
Them, so.
Yeah, it's good. It's good defense. All right. We've got another double-digit game. The Chiefs are going to Vegas, where I believe they lost last year, and they're going to be favored by 10. It's on the one hand, you say it's a different Raiders team. Is it really? Like, I don't know. It's Gardner Minshew now instead of whoever else they were playing at quarterback last year. It was Aiden O'Connell. Yeah, it was Aiden O'Connell. It's the same guy. I think I called them Aiden Minshew and Gardner O'Connell on the podcast this week. It's the same guy. I mean, what do we always say? Like, we both got it wrong. I'm here to tell you, not loud wrong like Cousin Josh on the podcast. Cousin Josh on the podcast is loud wrong about the 49ers covering against the Chiefs last week. But we both were wrong. But we both said we're stupid for not taking Mahomes as an underdog because he always covers as an underdog. And so, yeah, shame on us. But we also don't feel like the Chiefs are ready to blow teams out. So the fact that they're a 10-point road favorite.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's division stuff. It feels very boomery, but like, it just feels like these guys hate each other, know each other. Like, I mean, look, there's some pagan cigar thing going on with the Raiders. I don't know. They might start a cigar at some point. That's how weird they are. Like, they're really bad at football. But you know what? There's a rock fight, and it's just too many points. It's the mysticism is real. Points. The mysticism. The wait for you to throw up thing is real, and if anybody's going to throw up all over themselves, it's the Raiders in Las Vegas. So
yeah, it's a Mohal. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Says it's a Mahomes revenge game because the Raiders called him Kermit.
Yeah, it's true. They did do the Kermit thing. I just feel like he's heard that before and he's ready to rock. So, and he's ready to win by 7.
Eight. Yeah, exactly.
Eight,
so I'm with you. I'm Raiders plus 10. The Sunday night game, we've got the Cowboys. We've got the 49ers. It's a house of horrors for the Cowboys to go to San Francisco. They usually find a crazy way to lose, which might include, for example, Zeke Elliott with no offensive line for the last play of the game.
I love it. I have a painting of that.
You hate the Cowboys more than most things in life that you
It's
also
him
hate.
in the middle of the ocean. It's like a surrealist picture with that pose.
With Tyler Whitebreast?
Yeah, and his cousin, Cuckoo Longard. Okay.
Another one, the third team that I would say, I rank these guys for fantasy every week, and it's so hard to factor in the changes have to be coming for San Francisco. There's still no McCaffrey. Kittle isn't healthy. Ayuk's out for the year. Debo was in the hospital with pneumonia like 3 days ago.
I like there was pneumonia-like symptoms. It's like, okay, so what did he have?
As I said in the podcast, a fluid situation. I don't know how to imagine what that offense is going to be. I have no idea. Like, again, and I say, I say this in relation to Tampa, same kind of problem with everybody getting hurt, and kind of the opposite problem with Miami. These are hard football situations to really divine beforehand because we don't know what the coaches think of the replacement players. Right.
Like I would love if they would tell me that, but they don't know more than likely because
fair.
We've discussed even like the Tua thing, like you talked about the fluid joke, but things are fluid. It's true, just in terms of like what do we have out here. That's a lot of change for a football team because their identity was overwhelming. It was the overwhelming factor. It was Purdy to the overwhelming team, and now it's just like normal NFL stuff. Like it just feels more just this is a traditional NFL team with traditional NFL problems as opposed to this tier above everybody else in terms of their 53.
Yeah, they're not the wagon anymore. They're 3-4. Suddenly the horseshoe has fallen out of Brock Purdy's posterior, and he's getting unlucky on some plays.
Right.
Also, that interception in the end zone was. We can't blame personnel for that one. That was Mr. Irrelevant type interception. That was bad. So we're hoping not to see that recur. The line here is San Francisco -4.5, and I don't feel like super strongly about it. But the Cowboys coming off a bye, I guess there's a chance Micah Parsons comes back, and this bye week for the Cowboys came after that Lions game. So what have they heard for 2 weeks? How bad they are. And I this seems like a line that you would get if the Niner guys were healthy, to be honest.
That's exactly right. This isn't that much of an adjustment. Like, what would this be in a standard thing? 6, right? Like, I don't think it would be over. It wouldn't be over a touchdown. It would be within a 1-score game. And I suppose the Detroit game did happen, and the Saints game happened. There've been some low points for this Cowboys team, but I think those are too defining. It's still a pretty. I just think they can knock around and hang around with the team. It feels like a kick game. I'm taking the points. It feels like a kick.
I'm also taking the points. The Niners might not have anybody that's for sure. Max in the chat says, hey, a Q&A with the Philly stuffed animal. Do I have to do everything around here? Apparently you do, but that's funny. Monday night game, the New York Giants against Russell Wilson and the wagon Pittsburgh Steelers, who looked dead against the Jets. DEA dead. They were booing him off the field. Like Anthony Richardson got booed at home against the Colts. Like those are the polite Midwesterners. The Yinzers, the Pennsylvania kids, they weren't so polite. If they could have opened a trap door by consent of people in the stadium, Russell Wilson would be in the fiery pits of hell right now. But let's admit it. He was rusty. He shook it off. He finally threw the ball downfield where they couldn't get Justin Fields to do it. George Pickens became a thing again. For 1 week, dude, I kind of believed a little bit.
It was fun. I can't lie. It was fun. The guitar Russ was back. Like I hope the memes are back. It was so sad and suppressed that we couldn't even really make fun of him. It was kind of just like, oh, Russ. And so this is cool though. That was fun. And yeah, the weird parabola ball was back out. He's good at that. But they're built for that too. Like they have he has his Cortland Sutton or whatever. He has his guy, his downfield magnet, and it's fun again. The strangest stat is they're 21-1 straight up in Monday Night Football games. Like in the last since 1990. Like what is going on there? I don't know.
That's
that doesn't
weird.
mean anything, does it? That means nothing. But guess what?
I mean,
the Giants are terrible. So
yeah, the Giants are kind of bad. They're going to have a hard time blocking the defensive line, and the Jets didn't. What wrecked that game for Aaron Rodgers was everything but the pass rush, really. Like
right.
TJ Watt wasn't all over him. Like they did a pretty good job on him. I have a feeling the Giants, based on last week, are going to have a pretty hard time with the pass rush. That said, I'm doing the Jimmy McCormick reversal.
I love it. Please.
6.5 points is a lot. I don't know. I don't trust Wilson. I need to see it one more time. So I'm going to go Giants plus 6.5. How about that?
Love it. This is I'm going to talk about this game later. Let's just say that.
Oh, wow. And you're on Steelers. Okay.
Steelers.
All right. Well, this is the point in the show where we do that. We're gonna mention our 2 favorite point spread picks of the week. For the season overall, last week was freaking brutal. I think I went 4-9 and Jim went 6-9 against the spread. But our best bets, I went 2-0. Jim went 1-1. Both of our best bets are well over 500. So that's something. Hopefully we're still steering it right a little bit. So you tell me, which are your 2 that you like this week the most?
So it's the Steelers. I spent 2 hours with Daniel Jones last week, and that's all I never need to do. So,
and that was before the game. Oh, we lost Jim for a moment, but I'm sure he'll be back again. Oh, and I got bright, didn't I? We lost Jim, but he took the Steelers. That's all right. He'll either be back or he won't. And I'll give you my best bets. It's the first 2 games we talk about for me. It's Vikings giving 2.5 against the Rams on Thursday night. I feel pretty good about that one, and I think Miami covers pretty easily against Arizona. So Minnesota minus 2.5, Dolphins minus 3. We will post Jim's other best bet in the show notes at some point here. But what is yours in the chat? Tell us right now. What's your favorite best bet of the week? And also people watching after the fact, tell us down in the comments. We would love to hear it. We will shout out somebody who gets one right. We keep trying to pick different people, to shout out. Thank you so much to all of you for participating. And we're not kidding. Do it. Put your best bet down there. That's going to do it for this show. I hope you all enjoy week 8. It's been fun to talk with you. Thanks so much to DraftKings very much for continuing to sponsor. Again, if you use that promo code HarrisTube, if you sign up, it does help the show a little bit, helps us keep going. I would love it. And you get $200 in free bets with one $5 bet. So go get that DraftKings app. For the frozen Jim McCormick, for Dave Piper, who's shuffling things madly, seeing if he can figure it out. But we got to the end. I am Chris. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.